Hello, everyone. Welcome to Symbaroum. And you know what? Welcome back to Symbaroum. It's been away for a few weeks for a combination of reasons, some of which were planned and some of which were not. I have a very messy beard that I've only really just realized badly needs trimming now that I look at myself broadcasting out to thousands upon thousands of you here on the internet. But you know, these are our trials, these are our hurdles, and this is just what we're going to have to live with. So, first off, the usual sort of promo nonsense before we start launching into things. If you check below this video stream thing, you will find a bunch of links to YouTube and Twitch. We stream on Twitch, and then all our videos go on YouTube. That's the way that works. It's the way it works for so many people. You don't need me to explain this to you. But check out our YouTube if you want our vast catalogue of archived TTRPG things. Yeah, there's also links to Patreon, links to Discord, links to our social media. If those are things that interest you, then please do check those out. We currently run, after having run very little for a week or two, but we currently run 3 series weekly. Mondays is Vason with Johnny and the crew. Wednesdays is, of course, Symbaroum. That's what you're watching. And Thursdays currently is the kind of the final 2 episodes coming up of the Cincinnati Chronicles, our World of Darkness anthology series. And then once those are done, we'll be back with Big Wet, the post-apocalyptic, floody survival RPG that we had a couple of episodes of a couple of weeks ago. And then on to crazy new things with Tuesdays, Thursdays, and stuff. But those are still baking, so I won't tell you what they are just yet. We also run one-shots. We try and run 2 every month. August, they're definitely all piling up at the end of the month, but there's going to be a stream on, I want to say, the 25th or 26th of August, where I'm running Hell Knight, which has been delayed a little bit. It's a Doom Biker TTRPG, but that should be coming to you on the 26th. And on the 20th, which is the previous Sunday to that, Johnny should be running another Space Thulu installment. That's Johnny's Call of Cthulhu in Space stories. There, the previous ones are on our YouTube. Go check those out. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the stuff. That's the things. That's all the promo. But just a couple more things before we start getting on with stuff. Many of you will miss Mike tonight. And you will also sadly miss him for the next few weeks at least. Best guess at the moment is about 2 months, I'd say. He won't be with us. Don't worry about him. Everything's fine. He's lovely. He's happy. He's wonderful. The best a human being could possibly be, obviously. So nothing's wrong with Mike. Don't worry about him. He's just having to step away for a little bit. And it is not a surprise. So it's all good. It's all good. Tonight also, we will be missing John at the beginning. We'll be missing John for probably the next 13 minutes. And that's my estimation, and I'll stick by it. So what we're going to do tonight, because we took a bit of a break, we're going to bring everyone on, and then we're just going to kind of talk about the campaign for a little bit until John arrives, and then we'll launch back into it. How does that sound? That sounds good. Great. Okay, that's enough of my fucking face talking at you. And I can swear like that now because the YouTube video has now been running for almost 11 minutes. So that's fucking enough of fucking me. Let's start bringing on the players and just start saying hello and seeing how they are after all this time. Oh, look, it's a Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello, everyone. And if you're watching on Twitch, happy Baldur's Gate Eve.
Nice. I see from your name panel, Chris, that you're not called Chris.
Oh, yeah. I had to make some changes because I'm on a new browser, which is very exciting.
Ooh, what browser are you on, Chris? What browser are you on?
Oh, for security reasons, I can't discuss that.
Of course. I knew that answer was coming before I even said it, so I don't know why. I don't know why I bothered. So there we go. How are you, Chris? How was your, has the couple of weeks away given you a real yearning for Symbaroum?
All I really feel right now is a yearning for maybe some dry roasted peanuts. But I am looking forward to getting back to whatever is going on Not that I don't remember the campaign. It's just that the campaign has got to that stage where most of the written Symbaroum campaigns do, where there are a lot of threads and it hasn't yet locked into the
that's what's
shit.
happening. Yeah. Oh, we're doomed in
That's
this way as opposed to that way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, I can understand that.
So we're definitely in kind of the spaghetti act two, kind of the environment rather than the culmination, I suppose.
Yeah, sure. And it's worth noting that Chris does play Steo. You know what? We're vamping for time here anyway, right? So rather than me give the quick little notes of who Steo is, Chris, who's Steo? You tell us who Steo is.
Well, Steo was a family man in Alberator who was a working kind of military man for a lot of times, and then the war started, and Steo went through a lot, and with the rest of the humans of Alberator came north over the mountains, over the Titans to Ambria, and was involved in the establishment of Ambria. Was not involved in kind of the military very shortly after that, kind of fell into working kind of caravans and working security and guarding, and basically mourning the loss of basically everyone he's ever loved, and has just generally been a somewhat depressed alcoholic until he kind of fell in with this crowd and kind of went adventuring again, which is sort of refactored his psychology a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that I get the sense from Steo that psychologically there's a lot of wanting to do something he feels is good and worthwhile, or at least preventative of bad for the years he has left.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair state of play, along with some kind of weird paternal instinct towards Thistlehold, which doesn't really make too much sense given that it's not been particularly kind to him.
And it's a town, not a child.
Yeah, also, but to give
Okay,
the maybe a more to give a more systemic overview, basically a polar muser, frontliner, tank-ish character, also kind of healer, kind of utility party dad might be the best way to describe him.
utility
But
party dad. I like that. That's a t-shirt right there.
God,
So all right then, let's bring on our second player. Our second player is Stephen.
Hello.
Plays Elindra. And why don't you give us the old rundown on Elindra, Stephen?
What's going on with Elindra, hey? Well, so she's a fair bit younger than Steo. She would have come over from the war in Alberator as a baby or a toddler. Isn't entirely clear on what happened to her parents who brought her over, but according to the Sun Temple, who effectively raised her, I think they would have told her that like her parents were sick, perhaps, and just left her on the steps of the Sun Temple in a basket and a mysterious sword and nothing else to her name. So they took her in. They trained her towards being a Templar. I think she was probably quite invested in that. And then something just went wrong one day. She started manifesting unusual, unprios-like powers, and was promptly yeeted from the church. Do people still use that word? Am I just hopelessly elder millennial there?
You are a person, Stephen. So
yeah.
There
we go. So she was yoked from the church unceremoniously, and I think has been mainly just trying to figure out what she's going to do with the rest of her life now. Like, what does it mean to like have faith in Prios when the church itself doesn't have any faith in her? Like, what does it mean that it's a big old corrupt human institution?
Fortunately, no real world parallels to that quandary.
No, yeah, any similarity to religions Yeah, probably we'll go coincidental. We'll go with that. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so that's her. She's a bit of a kind of a lost puppy, but like one that has been trained in really quite efficient violence.
Yeah. which she has displayed on a number of occasions.
Yeah. So she's I mean, she's the big, tall, strong, powerful woman who can soak a lot of damage and give a lot of damage out, and most stands at the front of things. And
yeah, she's the off-tank DPS hybrid.
Yeah, she's the party's meat shield.
Yeah, to use. Anyone else played MMOs in the 2000s? There you go. So let's bring on not our final player of the night, but our final player for now until John rocks up. It's only Sam. Look, it's Sam.
Yeah.
Hello, Sam.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's very warm where I am right now, but other than that, I'm great.
And yet you are in. Is that a long sleeve shirt?
It is not.
Okay.
It is a t-shirt.
It is, but Sam's arms are actually just like 5 times longer than normal arms.
Yeah, absolutely. See, yeah, I have no broad suggestions for you on that, Sam, because I'm pretty sure if I was where you are, I would now be dead. But I don't know. All I can suggest is vests, Sam. That's all I can suggest.
I'm doing a very bad job of managing the heat. I played tennis today at
that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, but also at 2 p.m. Like the worst imaginable time to play. It was so hot. It was ridiculously hot, but I've survived. Maybe it just makes everything else seem more bearable in comparison.
Sam has essentially see. I know where Sam is, and I also should have basically just told me that you just played tennis on Venus today. Like that's how much of a hell I am imagining.
You did an anti-siesta,
yeah. It was not the best idea in the world, but I survived. So
okay, well, good. Good
Whatever
news.
Doesn't kill you yields mockery later.
Whatever doesn't kill you wears down your metabolism and reduces your lifespan. So, you play Ascarai. Yes. Speaking of reducing lifespans, you play Ascarai. Tell us about Ascarai, Sam.
Ascarai is a changeling, kind of scouty ranger type guy. He was, formed the part of the party when they kind of got together in Thistlehold, and I think probably before that was doing similar scouty rangery type stuff, but for probably less profit and with people who treated him less nicely. And now I think Ascarai is feeling good to be part of a party that is actually has a little bit of trust between them, maybe more than a little bit of trust, a good amount of trust between them, and has been relatively successful in terms of not dying and making money. Not 100% in either case, but feeling pretty positive. And I think the only thing is the elf issue, which is complicated. I think for Ascarai, it's not exactly clear to him or maybe to his party what Ascarai's feelings are towards elves or what they should be, but
I think it's fair to say that some people in the party are currently working with elves, and Ascarai not a fan of elves.
Yeah, that's
because it's not a thing that's come up on stream for ages, and we may or may not have some time to kill. Is it worth just talking briefly in the setting about the relationship between elves and changelings and Ambrians, I guess?
Yeah, sure. For a start, the relationship between elves and changelings is kind of unclear for most people, including most changelings. But in terms of the kind of broader lore and as it's understood by, most elves and some changelings and indeed some Ambrians, changelings are essentially elf infants who have been who may or may not have some kind of difference from regular elves, whether that be natural or kind of magical, and they are like, is there the typical folklore thing in Symbaroum that they're exchanged for human children?
I think that's at least mentioned as like a rumor, as like
it's like a rumor, but it may or may not be. But like, they are either exchanged for human infants or just left with human settlements. And I believe I'm right in saying when they're children, you basically can't tell the difference.
Yeah, I think the idea is like it's as they sort of go through what would normally be puberty or like that kind of age that you begin to realize like, wait a minute, they have like elf features. And I think by the time they're adult age, they look more like elves than humans.
Yeah. And they also, as their name implies, have the ability to sort of transform their appearance to a certain degree. Generally speaking, the barbarian tribes of the forest and the plains have quite different reactions to changelings, quite varied reactions. Some of the clans basically accept them. Some of them not so much. As for Ambrians, the problem with changelings, according to Ambrians, is that they're basically elves. And Ambrians don't like elves. Because all the first... For years, whenever anyone would go into Davakar, the forest at the border of northern Ambria, elves would kill the shit out of them. And they still do quite a lot. But gradually, as the power of the Ambrians has risen, that kind of dynamic has shifted somewhat. You know, the elves don't have enough arrows for all the Ambrians. But that sort of antipathy between elves and Ambrians still remains, and this is reflected by the fact that while changelings and indeed elves aren't exactly killed on sight in Ambria, I mean sometimes they are, but yeah, changelings are for sure. You know, not that there's any kind of particular notion of citizenry in Ambria, but if there were, they would be second-class citizens. They're down there with the ogres and the goblins, in terms of how they're treated by Ambrians. Yeah.
So presumably Ascarai, on some level, blames elves for the fact that he's grown up as an outcast and stuff.
Definitely,
yeah. You've been abandoned essentially to a people who you can get limited understanding and acceptance from, which for reasons you don't know.
Yeah. And I think also the other thing with Ask right now is that like we've had more interactions with elves at like over this campaign. I feel like Askrai probably has had friendly interactions with elves in his lifetime. And I think the fact that he's still treated like very much as a outsider by the elves as well as the humans is like, okay, I guess like every fucking person hates me and the elves are really to blame and they're not even, nice about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a whole pot of bad feeling and bad stuff. So there we go. And that has led, as you can see from Sam's great character art there, ably drawn by John, who will join us in a bit. Many changelings wear masks because they don't want to be recognized as changelings. They have, to a certain degree, that luxury that goblins and ogres do not, in that they can pass for human if they wear the right things. So, but I suppose that then becomes a thing of like, oh, they're wearing a mask, they're probably a changeling, which, I feel like we've gone through a whole heap of societal progression of prejudice there in some instances.
I think you mentioned in an offhand comment at one point that at least in the way that you imagine this kind of world, that it's not completely unusual for people to sort of wear masks.
No, but I think it is a lot more common among the barbarians and the changelings and the goblins and the ogres than it is among Ambrians.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a cultural thing from north of the Titans that's been mostly accepted there. So, yeah. For example, I believe at one point you've seen Earthons wearing a mask. And I think to a certain degree for people here as well, I think there's literally a kind of aspect of it that's literally just like armor. It's like a protective quality in battle. So because you can get some extremely tough wood.
I mean, the Queen of Ambria wears a mask, doesn't she?
She does, albeit quite a different one. She wears a golden mask that has kind of an image of her face when she was younger on it. Presumably,
and she is definitely the Queen and not a stand-in a mask for sure.
That's definitely never a rumor that goes around. Absolutely. The reasoning, although I don't think the reasoning has ever been actually said to the public, but certainly the reasoning everyone understands is that her time under captivity of the Dark Lords was involved, perhaps the fact that she was disfigured by them. So that's the idea. And we've got a John. Look, it's a John. There we go. Hello,
Yay.
John.
Hello.
We're just doing like a big kind of like pretty open, loose intro thing here to vamp for your arrival, because we figured we might as well do that. You weren't going to be that long. But I've realized, you know what? Not to put on your spot, I don't think I have Arendar's art.
Oh.
I'm missing that specific art. So do you want to A, pop up your art for Arendar, and B, just give us the cliff notes of Arendar.
Oh yeah, not putting me on the spot in any way.
At the same time, come on.
Do two things at once. Yeah, we're on the clock here, John.
Yeah.
I can see him do it. Here we go. It's happening, folks. I can see it happening at the bottom of the screen. That's not it.
So this was happening on Monday. For some reason on Monday it wasn't loading in.
Oh.
Is it loading in for everyone else now?
No. It's not for me. I can't see it.
Nope.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. So Arendar is the last person of the House Dar that we know of, who is desperately trying to rebuild his former glory, but also trying to wrestle with his own slightly naive, slightly overbearing conscience. He's also got a fancy sword and a fancy cat. Is that what you wanted, Matt? You're on mute.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. We just didn't. We don't have to vamp now, John. So I don't have to get you to talk more about the inner workings of your characters. We could just fucking crack on. So there we go. Those are our players. I agreed because it's been a couple of weeks. I'll do our recap this week because it's I have more of this stuff going around my head, so it's unfair to thrust it on one of the players. So broadly speaking, a recap of the campaign is that our characters, who are collectively known as the heroes of the sinkhole in the town they call home, Thistlehold, ended up traveling north, partly on a whim, in order to visit the plateau known as Karvosti, the plateau of the witches, the plateau of the high chieftain of the barbarian clans. And while there, they've become embroiled in the search for a missing fortune hunter who seems to have found the location of the fabled lost city of Symbar somewhere. It's always been presumed to be in the north of Davakar, but who knows? This has led to something of a gold rush, only instead of gold, it's information. Everyone is looking to try and follow the trail of this missing fortune hunter to find the same information she found, and therefore find their way to the lost city of Symbar and all the treasures and magic and horror that it contains. In order to do so, all these different groups have been traveling around 3 locations. One, the village of New Earthmore, where our group went first and found some information on the tunnels beneath Karvosti, where the information of the location of Symbar is rumored to be found. They then visited the ruins of Faramurun, which was exceptionally dangerous and got a number of their kind of associated hirelings killed. There, they found what appears to be, or what is apparently a sort of duplicate of the doorway that they need to go past to get access to the tunnels of Karvosti, including a locking mechanism that they now recognize but do not yet have essentially the key to, of the in what order to move different things on the mechanism. And they are now returned to Karvosti, gearing themselves up for a trip to the final location, Yepheron Isle, which should, by their calculations of information that is missing, reveal the location of the door with the mechanism that leads to the tunnels under Karvosti. They have also managed, via their associate Degesto, to build some form of pact with another fortune hunter called Yosefia, who claims A, to have already been to Yepheron Isle and gave you several handy bits of information on reaching it and trying to keep safe on it. And B, has details on how to use the locking mechanism. And will give those to you, share those with you, if on your return from Yepheron, you go with her group to this doorway. Is that a kind of adequate summary of where we are? There's also a couple of other probably not important things, like kind of brewing conflict in a number of horrible ways. The Templars have turned on the Sun Church. There are armies mounting in various places. There are raids from mysterious clan folk with odd tattoos. But I'm sure it's all fine. It's probably going to be fine. So there we go. In terms of where the group is right now, we find ourselves on Karvosti. You've just entered this pact with Yosefia. Degesto has gone off to try and find a hireling to try and swell your ranks a little bit after the recent losses. And I think the general agreement was, come dawn, you would be leaving Karvosti and heading on your way first to Jakar on the borders of Lake Volgoma, and then on via booking some kind of passage to further north on Lake Volgoma. Does that about cover it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
I'm glad I've got all this stuff in my head because I have nothing else. So there we go. All right then. In that case, we find ourselves in the pilgrim camp of the plateau of Karvosti. It was kind of late, I think, before, but now it's kind of getting sort of the time where you would go try and get some sleep for the morning. But you're not quite there. And let's say that you have like you've got a campfire, right? Why would you not? Is there anything you think you'd be discussing at this point? Father Anton is with you. I'm going to... for anyone who's joined late, Mike won't be able to join us for several weeks. I was wrangling over whether I wanted to write Anton out or whatever. But you know what? I'm just going to keep him in as an NPC, and we're going to try and do him justice in a good way, not in a constantly failing our roles way. So I think I've got Mike's latest character sheet. And as with the other NPCs for our party, I'll just be like, basically, in a particular session, if rolls have to be made, the other players will do it, but I'll play him, as it were. So you are all there. Is there any particular discussions or things that are happening around this campfire?
Would Askray have any idea what the cost would be to hire a boat?
That's interesting. Do you mean to hire a boat and crew, or to hire a boat for you all to use?
I mean, probably with I don't know what Askray thinks we'd need to get across because we're heading to the west of Volgoma and then back.
The northeast, northwest. Sorry,
yeah, and then like back into the lake is what I understood what the path was.
I mean, it's in terms of hiring. You know what? I'm going to say you don't know. You don't know how much that costs. I'm partly saying that because I don't. But also just I don't think you would know, right? How much it's going to cost you to. And the question is, like, there are a number of aspects to this, right? First, how are you going to get to the northwest of Volgoma?
Yeah, we could walk.
And then once you're there, you could walk. And then once you're there, also, you have to have a boat at some point to travel out to the Isle. But given that that's apparently a relatively simple-ish journey, you may be able to just do that via canoes or something. Like but you do know is that crossing the length of Lake Volgoma on canoes probably not a good idea. It's a very large lake.
Yeah. I think that's what I would want to talk about. Like, so what is our plan as far as getting to this isle? We know the way. We have some money, but do any of you know what it would cost to hire a boat? Do any of you know how to sail?
Ascari, do you remember the name of the ship that we were working on when we came down the River Eblis the last time? The captain's name was Ogval or something, wasn't it?
That rings a bell. That does ring a bell. I think
if the players can't remember, the vessel was called the River Maiden.
Yes, that also rings a bell. Okay, so that was the River Maiden. I mean, I guess if we find that in Jakar, they kind of owe us a favor a little bit. We did help them deal with that creature.
We could at least get a discount, even though it's probably still going to be in the tens of thaler easily. Maybe 50, 60 thaler would be my absolute guess. I'm not the kind of man who hires boats.
How much do we have between us? I have 8 thaler, 2 shillings. Revelia will pipe up and say that she has 5. Like, can we pull this together to get a boat and a crew? That this seems to be. The Gesto is thinking that we would need a crew, and I'm not inclined to disagree if we can afford it. But do we need to take on work? Can we just scrape together everything that we have for this?
I've got 20 thaler after chipping in quite a good amount for our licenses.
You are owed, Ascari, from the profits of this venture.
So
does anyone think that their character would reasonably know what berths on a craft might cost? Because I have come to a conclusion, and I'm happy to give you that information if you feel you know.
No.
Fair enough then. Never mind.
Would Anton?
Now.
Yeah.
Oh, DeGesto might.
Yeah.
But he's not here.
I have 20 thaler, and we still have about 30 thaler in Etikop if we can fence it in Jakar.
Okay. That's true. We could sell that.
And I have 16. So between us, we could.
Yeah.
We probably have enough.
Maybe 60 thaler between us and more if we sell up. Yeah, we can do it. So we can probably do it.
Assuming that we survive Yefferon Isle, we will be coming back to Karvosti with potentially not a thaler between us. Certainly we will be poor and needing to find some way to make all of this information pay for itself.
Yeah.
I also think
no
dangerous prospect.
No matter how much thaler we throw at this, we're gonna have to be pretty convincing to some poor sailors that going to Yefferon Isle is not a doomed voyage.
It might be that we commission
anything other than a.
I can't quite remember who said it, but someone said that it was a good idea to go to one of the Zarek villages along the shore and ask them.
Some of the information that Yosefia gave was that we would go to the Zareks, who I believe are like northwest of the lake.
Yeah, the Zarek lands occupy kind of all the western shore of Volgoma and beyond.
Yeah, so that might be that first leg might be we commission a boat and a crew. The second leg, maybe that crew doesn't want to come with us, and we have to negotiate with the Zareks for a boat.
You have some advantage in this, in that Father Anton definitely speaks Zarek. It's definitely one of the clan tongues he can speak. And Aaron Dar has actually had not inconsiderate interactions with the Zarek.
I was just about to bring that up back.
Yeah. Aaron, do you know if the
Serdar,
Zarek have?
you were saying
Do they have their own boats? Do they sail on the lake?
They definitely do.
They do. What was it? Them that either sailed us to or lent us a boat to do an errand for them.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And they are, in my experience, more than happy to lend boats in exchange for favors.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we need to get to Jakar, hope that we have enough between our Thala and our calling in favors to commission a boat and a crew. And if we don't, like, pick up some work there or something.
I mean, we do have the
so. How
option.
about this?
We do have the option if the boat from Jakar is gonna wipe us out, we could walk around to the Zareks and use our Thala with the Zareks to get a boat. But I mean,
No.
It's a race, Ascarai.
We
I
don't have
mean-
that kind of time.
it's not optimal. I agree.
I mean, presumably there would be trade between Jakar and the Zareks. Perhaps we could manage to find a berth on a ship going in the general area.
There
Yeah,
almost
that might cut
certainly
on
will
cost.
be. Yeah.
Also, so here, after you mentioned that, Aaron, maybe the strategy is not commission the boat to take us to Yefron. Maybe we commission the boat just to get us across the lake, and then we trade the Etikop in for the boat to Yefron. That makes pretty efficient use of the material we have to hand.
I was hoping against hope that the image sharing would be fixed on StreamYard, but it is not. But there's been some questions about the geography of this, and unfortunately, I can't use my mouse cursor to actually indicate things for you. But yeah, for context, if you were going to walk to the shore near Yeffaron Isle, you wouldn't even probably go to Jakar if you wanted to do that as a serious enterprise. You would probably, so number 5 there is Karvosti. So you would probably immediately strike out north along the lake shore and kind of go around. Because going around the bottom, like I say, that all of that western shore is Zarek territory. So you could get to Zarek territory fairly easily, but it would be Zarek territory at the exact opposite side of Lake Volgoma from where you need to go. So, yeah.
Okay. So we head to Jakar, try to get not a ship directly to Yefron, just a ship to the western side to Zarek territory. Probably be a lot cheaper, and then see what we can do with our Etamite.
Yeah. Yosefia's advice on how to get to Yeffaron Isle say that, as far as she knows, the only safe way to do it is from the western shore. So,
yeah, that's
Cool.
the instructions you've had to, like, because for viewers who may not know, Yeffaron Isle has apparently some kind of mystical protection around it that prevents you from seeing it until you are close enough to it that the veil is sort of pulled back. And the only surefire way to do this is to leave from a particular point on the shore and just head straight east. So, yeah.
I should get some rest then, I suppose.
As you say this, De Gesto sort of stomps up to the campfire. He's definitely been drinking, but he also has a significant capacity for drink. So he's more kind of like slightly rolling on his feet than clearly sort of drunk. Next to him stands a tall and rangy young man who has kind of fairly tightly cropped curly hair and sort of the start of a beard or of a goatee, but not a particularly developed one. He's carrying what seems to be genuinely fairly good sword on his hip and shield and bow on his back. And he sort of glances around all of you with a sort of, in a sort of friendly, measured way, but one in which you definitely get the impression he's slightly cowed, or at least trying to make a good impression with how he's standing and holding himself. De Gesto says, "Well, this is them. Friends, companions. This young man is called Malamai. He's from Karun. He's signing on with us. I can't particularly speak to how he holds that sword and shield, but I can tell you that he's a fairly dab hand with that bow."
That's always useful.
Pleased to meet you, Malamai.
He sort of sketches a bow, which is quite a poor impression of a noble boy's bow, and says, "I've heard of your heroics in Thistlehold. We heard them all the way to Karun. I'm pleased to be in such great company."
Matt, are we likely to know anything about what and where Karun is?
Yeah, sure. Karun is an Ambrian city. It's to the east. It's not to the east. It's to the west of Thistlehold. But it's another kind of city that's sort of more on the fringes of Ambria. But it's a lot safer and less roughshod than Thistlehold would be. I believe they're in the same duchy. Let me just double check on that one.
I think it's where we got the boat from, right? The time before when we were getting a boat.
Yes, it is. Yes, it absolutely is. Yeah, so you have been there. Yes, it's the same duchy. They're both in Marigor. Yeah, you've been. Yes, you have been to Karun. Yeah, it's smaller than it's essentially very much a kind of river port town, less roughshod than Thistlehold. But still on. It's a town on the northern edges of Ambria, so it's always going to be slightly rougher and less safe than anything in the Ambrian heartland.
Cool.
Have you been to the forest before, lad?
Yes, sir, I have. I won't lie and say I've been many a time, but I've been on 2 expeditions, sir, and held my own.
Good.
I know what's out
Well,
there.
bad. No. Okay, that's a benefit, as you can probably tell. We have a plan for tomorrow. De Gesto, we come up with something that might be pretty time and cost efficient.
Go on.
We're going to cross into the Zarek territory on hopefully a trade boat if we can find passage, and then we're going to commission a boat there.
So, Jakar, find some berths across the lake, find a friendly Zarek village nearby, get some sort of vessel or guide off them. Yeah, for an isle.
Yeah. Sounds easy, doesn't it?
Straightforward, no hitches.
We need
Sounds
to
good.
negotiate with the Zareks anyway to find the right place to set off. So we may as well negotiate for a boat as well.
They can be a serious lot, the Zareks, but I've never known them not to be friendly.
That's good.
All right. Well,
Aaron's had some dealings with them. They're traders.
Well, before we go to bed, lad, tell them what you told me, but keep it quiet. He kind of hunches down near the campfire and sort of reaches across and scoops whatever's been cooking out of the pot, and is sort of labeling it more or less kind of boiling hot straight into his mouth with no particular compunction. Malamai sort of nods and hunches down. And you know, like he is really quite tall. Like De Gesto's a big guy, and he's like on his haunches next to him is a full head above him, and says, "I was telling Captain De Gesto here. When I travelled north from Karun, I'd heard the rumors of the rush from Symbar and the money from the last expedition I was part of had run out. When we left the gates of Thistlehold, I spent a few days in the company of some other travelers, including a dwarven mercenary. He told me he'd come from Indaros. There is a column of at least 200 panzers marching north from Indaros. He said he saw the Queen at the head of the column.
Prios' teats.
Making for Thistlehold. When we left, Captain De Gesto said that the last you've heard was a lot less. When we passed through Thistlehold, the army camped outside was 7,000 strong.
She's
It's
going
gonna
to
be
try
a-
and take the plateau, isn't she?
I don't know where they're heading, but it's going to be a proper war. 7,000? Wherever
I mean,
it is, it's going to be bad.
Steo, you for sure know, like, an army of 7,000 men in Ambria. Since you haven't heard of an army of 7,000 men since the war, not the taking of like Ambria, but the war.
They didn't even use that much to put down Yindaros.
This
You don't raise that kind of army for politics. That's not going back with swords on bloody.
this raises an interesting question. Do the people in charge up here know that this is coming? And if they don't, should we let them know?
I don't have the answer to that, tonight, but I do know that some of those I travelled with, not the dwarf, he split off from us near Archbridge. He seemed more amused by it than daunted. But the other travellers, they were talking about it in the Longhouse. I've no doubt it'll be all over the plateau.
If we know, the witches will know. If the witches know, the High Chieftain will know.
Once again, it seems politically expedient to get off the main road as soon as we can.
But
Yeah.
do we know for sure what they're marching on?
Well, if they're going north from Thistlehold, there are only so many targets. I would have thought that even if Carvasti wasn't their ultimate goal, it would certainly be a place that they would want to take on their way to somewhere. If not Carvasti itself.
Maybe she already knows where Symbar is.
Maybe she
I mean,
does.
we did hear a
Maybe
rumor
she-
about some Duke, but I feel like 7,000 men is more than it would take to deal with a Duke in Ambria.
Aye. And even then, why would she march on Thistlehold? Unless she's come for Night Pitch. But if you're coming for Night Pitch, I'd probably suggest you not to camp your 7,000 strong army outside for weeks first.
7,000 men
heads up.
for Night Pitch? Like, however much of a thorn he might be in the Queen's side, and I don't understand the politics of it. Thistlehold's a big place, but it's not that big.
Queen owes Night Pitch a favour. Basically owes her life. I don't think that's where this is going. I think this is coming here. I think this is coming to the plateau.
I mean, we have heard about this other barbarian army or leader. I think best case maybe it's for them, but
I
we
hope
don't
you're
know how
right,
many they
Asgard,
are.
because that would be delightfully diplomatic.
Sure. I mean, well, we've encountered those folks, but so far, at least, they seem to have been smaller war bands, guerrilla tactics. I don't know. I don't know I don't know how you fight that with an army that size.
What if she's marching on the Templars?
Is she involved in that? Does she care? Also, where are
We don't
they?
even know
Like
where the
they're
Templars have gone.
scattered all over the place.
She'd have to
surely.
come past Temple Wall to get to Thistlehold. Why would
Yeah.
she'd have gathered her army at Inderos if that were the case, surely.
It's all speculation anyway.
I can't see how that army is not coming into this forest.
I mean, there's also the fact that there's a few more soldiers here than there normally are. This doesn't bode well.
I think whatever the motivations, whatever the targets, it's best for us to not be here. I don't want to be in this war.
Look, it sounds like we're sorted for tomorrow, and the Longhouse beer is starting to sink into my brain, so bed, dawn, Jakar.
Yes.
Are we taking the roads?
What's the alternative?
I think, yeah.
If we make good time, we could perhaps do it in 2 days going off-road. 3 days on, it's hardly a difference, and it will be a lot safer.
No, I'd like to get the news. We're still ahead of this army, whatever it is.
Yeah, I would like to get to Jakar and get on the water as quickly as we possibly can.
So you want to go through the forest?
You think that's faster than the roads?
Yes. The roads take us east to Archbridge and then down to Jakar. We could, if we wanted, we could travel directly south, hug the shore of Volgoma, and maybe make up time that way, but it would depend on the footing, and we'd have to find a place to cross the Malgamore.
Stick to the roads. We've got to.
It would save us about a day if we're lucky.
That's crossing the Malgamore and traveling through that much forest is a lot of risk to save a day. I'm inclined to agree with Steo.
All right. Roads it is. DeGesto lets out a relatively large belch and crawls into his tent. Malamai sort of nods to you all and starts setting up a small kind of like just kind of lean-to tent that he has in a backpack by your fire.
I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
Okay. So is anyone kind of is everyone going to bed? Are we happy to draw the veil?
I think I'll stay up for a while, but I'm basically just kind of by instinct keeping the first wall.
Sure. There's generally kind of like a group watch at the Pilgrim camp, but yeah, feel free.
I'm going to bed, but before I do, I make sure that Malamai is aware that this meerkat is a friendly friendly. Don't shoot this meerkat.
Malamai kind of nods and says, "Oh, of course. Good boy." He doesn't reach out or anything, but he kind of tries to look at Farron, who's just completely ignoring him. Just kind of...
Goodish.
Okay. Bedtime. So dawn starts to break over the plateau. Some of you probably aren't awake quite. Oh, you're like lying, just kind of like gathering the energy to get up. It's quite difficult. I don't know how many of you have camped in a very cold environment. It's very difficult to actually summon the energy to get out of your sleeping role. And that is what you are sort of encountering here. It's up to you if some of you are maybe still asleep or whatnot. But before long, those of you who are awake start to hear a kind of, not a violent hubbub, but certainly a hubbub in the Pilgrim camp. People seem to be kind of emerging from their tents and talking to each other in hushed whispers.
We'll get up to see what's happening.
It seems like a bad sign.
Sure. Those of you who feel you're awake emerge from your tents to once again, in a kind of flashback to one of your first nights on the plateau, or the first nights on the plateau from this campaign anyway, of the Wrathguard are surrounding the pilgrim camp. The High Chieftains, or perhaps the Huldras, depending on your point of view, personal guard. They're not saying or doing anything, but they are standing around the pilgrim camp in exactly the same fashion they did on the night that the High Chieftain was almost assassinated.
We need to get our stuff and see if we can get out of here as fast as possible.
Yes. Hopefully, we have enough currency with the Wrathguard to be allowed out.
Can you? I'm going to take some a bit of sort of game master fiat here. Stephen, I think Revelia would be kind of aware enough to have a look around. Could you make a vigilant roll for her, please?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, by the way.
She's got Vigilance 7 and I rolled a 5.
Okay.
So she passes.
Yeah. So while you kind of like turn around to start like bundling everything together to sort of get everything up, she sort of kind of holds your arm a second and says, "They're around the barbarian buildings near the gate as well." She points over and you can see that there are indeed also Wrathguard kind of surrounding the kind of market and space where some shops and more like huts and the longhouse are as well.
They're locking down the whole plateau. Possibly. I'll relay this to the others.
I think that'll be Steo's cue to wake up because he was trying to not pay any attention to this.
Sure. Well, Steo, as you kind of clamber out of your tent and kind of register everything, and as you can hear the others talking, but you also kind of, as you kind of blearily start gazing out over the plateau, you can see that another smaller group of Wrathguard are approaching the edge of the pilgrim camp. Notable among them, you can see the relatively like short form of First Guard Farvan with kind of his head shaved. He's got a fairly you've never seen him without a serious look on his face, to be fair, but he doesn't look like he's coming here for a social call.
That's your one. What's his name? But the big guard king. He's coming. He doesn't look happy about it. Let's get packed up as quick as we can.
He's the one who knows us. He could be our ticket out of this.
Yeah, let's just make sure we're ready for him. Steo's kind of hurriedly throwing his stuff together.
Sure.
Yeah, it's packed down.
Yeah, you can get most of your stuff, but not all of it, packed up before Farvan arrives at the edge of the pilgrim camp. He steps forward immediately from his kind of personal troops and in a quite thickly accented Ambrian says, "The High Chieftain has declared the plateau cleared of any who do not call the Northern Lands home. Strike your tents, gather possessions. There will be no violence, but you will leave." There immediately a great amount of distress breaks out in the pilgrim camp.
Is there any sign of people like reaching for weapons or like because there's
No.
Templars and
The Templars are at the Sun Church.
okay, they're not here.
Oh, speaking of which, do you think you might look up and see?
Oh,
There's
yes.
no Okay. There are no Wrathguard near the Sun Church. and Templars can be seen observing the clearance from the higher ridge in the sharp dawn sunlight.
That's real interesting. Apparently the Templars are exempt. I say to the others, not to the Wrathguard.
Or the Wrathguard are getting us out of the way before they go up there.
Either way, what they want us to do is a good match for what we want to do anyway.
As I say, many of the occupants of the Pilgrim camp are deeply distressed by this. Many of them have nowhere to go, and some are sick or otherwise incapacitated. The Wrathguard, for their part, some of them are moving forward, and they're definitely not being violent or forceful, but they are, for example, helping people to get people moving if they can't get moving themselves. Although, how far that's gonna last is definitely a question mark. The Wrathguard, for their part, definitely don't seem to be taking any pleasure in these actions. There are a number of barbarians in the Pilgrim camp. None of them are being moved on.
Is there a clear path for us to just start heading towards the gate? Or are we going to be corralled all together towards the gate?
A trail of dislodged Ambrians is already starting to move towards the gate, seemingly with no real option to do otherwise. You can see that they're over to the side. You can see Edrafin, the leader of the Pilgrim camp, or the self-appointed leader, sort of pleading his case with Farvan, who seems to be listening to him for a few moments, and then kind of looks back up in the air over the plateau and looks down and says something to the Wrathguard next to him, who nods and sort of pat Edrafin on the back. Edrafin seems to be very grateful for something and is being led in the direction of the Longhouse. But he's also kind of looking around with some distress at all the other Ambrians who are traveling in a slightly different direction.
It's going to be quite some time before we work out exactly what's going on here, but I don't think we're going to get much. No.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything positive we can do by staying here.
I think we need to try and get to the gate before we're stuck behind a massive queue of people.
I think I want to go talk to Farvan. I want to know, why Edrafin? Is it just that he's been here for long enough that they're letting him stay, or
perhaps he's trusted enough
basically
make an exception.
He is basically furniture here, so. But go take Anton with you. See if you can get any more information out of him. He owes us a favor, I think.
Father Anton kind of nods and stands up and walks alongside you, Arendar.
I will head over to Farvan then. Remind me, is there not quite an honorific, but a...
His honorific is First Guard.
Right. Then I will say, good morning, First Guard.
Yes. The answer is yes.
And what is the question?
Your services to the High Chieftain, they justify hospitality beyond the orders. Remain as long as you wish, but do not cause trouble.
Oh.
If you leave, I cannot guarantee you will be let back, but will not rule that out either.
I understand. And I understand that this appears to be a difficult time. Would you be willing to discuss it, or is now not a good time?
I am simply the blade that carries out the High Chieftain's wishes. This is not a decision he made easily. If you wish to discuss it, you would have to discuss it with Tharaban yourself.
Would that... Would Tharaban be willing to discuss it with us?
Maybe. I cannot speak for him. You wish to seek an audience?
I think it would be best to see what my friends would like to do next.
It will take some time, so do not dally.
And just check, Edrafin, is the same hospitality applies to him? I notice he isn't being...
That is right.
Good.
Edrafin has performed services for the High Chieftain and the Huldra.
He is a very reliable man. Thank you, First Guard.
He just nods.
I will go back to the group. It appears that we are exempt.
That's kind of them.
Fortunately, it's almost irrelevant, seeing as we want to leave anyway, but my Prios, it's tempting to try and figure out what's going on here, isn't it?
Well, apparently if we wanted to delve further, an audience with Tharaban himself could be on the table. I didn't say yes because we weren't sure if he wanted to come to his attention, but the offer is there.
I presume that if the offer is there, that means we have already come to his attention. So we meet with him. Perhaps he can tell us why this is happening. Perhaps he has some more information beyond what we already know about the troops gathering in Ambria. Perhaps it's something unrelated. What do we think the chances are that we can do anything about it? What do we think the chances are that he would give us a reason to stay rather than leave as planned?
Look, one side of a war is as bad as the other side, if you ask me. It would be a good idea to get an audience with him, but we are on the clock. I'd like to speak to him, honestly, because we're not going to... I don't know if we're going to get another chance. Maybe we don't get back in.
Farvan did say he couldn't guarantee our ability to come back, so maybe talking to Tharaban directly would be... I don't know. A way
Maybe
to
talking
pose
to him now
ourselves
is the only chance we're going to get.
Maybe a way to pose ourselves as neutral parties. Do we want to be neutral parties? Isn't staying in neutral in a conflict with the Queen effectively working against the Queen?
How
Lots of trees in the forest, Aaron.
How can we support the Queen's plans, though we are Ambrians, without knowing what they are? Because it looks like she wants to invade Carvosti, and I cannot imagine a reason why she would want to do that will not make the world a worse place to be. That doesn't mean that I'm on the side of Carvosti or the barbarian tribes. I think I am neutral in this. I think I just want to not be a part of it. But if we want to take our route off the plateau via the Longhouse, okay.
Yeah, I think that's the strategy. Like I said, I don't think we're going to get a second chance to speak to him, and we may not even get a second chance to get back on top of this hill. Let's chat to him now.
He warned this may take a while, though. It will delay us.
Well then, it looks like your man got down to the Longhouse. They do serve beer there.
So are we returning to Farvan and saying we do want an audience with Tharaban?
I think so.
I think that was the
Okay.
summary.
You go back over to Farvan. He hears you say this, and he nods and points over to the High Chieftain's hall and says, "Go, wait by the gate."
What's the guest doing?
De Gesto is kind of wide-eyed a little bit at this, but kind of happy to go along with it, and seems to be like moving with you, as well as Malamai, with like, I guess I'm included in this.
With us.
I'm just here.
Yeah, the Wrathguard for their part don't seem to be stopping him, so you guess that he's with you, and ergo, he also shares your hospitality. Yeah.
I'll kind of head over to the Longhouse then, or not the Longhouse, the Chieftain's.
Yeah. To be clear, the Longhouse
Haza.
is the tavern, and
Sorry, yeah.
which is quite a bit smaller than this, which is the High Chieftain's.
I said Longhouse before, but I meant that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will have a quick aside to the guest on the way over and just say, look, we get a chance to talk to the big guy. Let us do the talking. He owes us a favor, not a big one.
I'm not saying a fucking word.
Great.
Yes, this is the High Chieftain's Hall on Carvosta. You can see. Incidentally, if we wonder what the Wrathguard look like, that is what the Wrathguard look like. Although each of their outfits is kind of slightly different. The masks are slightly different. The set of their armor is slightly different. And for those of you like Ascarai and Anton, though Mike's not here, will also be able to recognize that their uniforms kind of carry some aspect of the symbology of the clan they've come from on them, which kind of keeps them slightly distinct as well. But they, no matter the variations, they are all their armor is blood red. So you find yourself at the foot of the steps of the High Chieftain's Hall. Yeah, there are Wrathguard there who are kind of observing you. Farvan kind of like returned in front of you and has gone inside the High Chieftain's Hall, and a couple of his men are standing kind of outside the doors, just kind of watching you in a not watching you kind of way.
I suppose I'll take this opportunity to lay my pack on the ground and maybe survey the situation on the plateau, specifically on the higher level of the plateau. Now that the pilgrims are on their way out, is there any change in the disposition of the ex-Templar?
Well, the pilgrim camp is there's a lot of people there, and they're still kind of like getting moving. It's not kind of, it's thinning out, but it's not all gone by any means. None of the Wrathguard have at all ascended to the higher ledge of the plateau. And the Templars are just stood there kind of watching.
I'll kind of mention it kind of quietly to the group. It's like, that's a question we're going to have to ask, isn't it? What are we asking? We're asking, does he know about the army? Is there anything we can do to maintain peace? I'm just spitballing here. What's gone on with the Templars?
I think those are all the general thrust of it, Theo. Yeah. Yeah. Why is he clearing the camp? What does he know about what's happening in Ambria?
Maybe
Can we somehow help?
Maybe we should ask about guaranteeing our entry if we return. Or
Ascarai, you're very good.
I mean, that seems to me to be a difficult thing to guarantee, given some of the possibilities about what could be happening here very soon.
I agree. Maybe guarantee is strong, but at least bring it up.
I would imagine that we would be welcome back if it were possible to open the gates and let us in. We may find ourselves returning in the middle of a siege.
Yeah, let's just, I suppose, underline the fact that we may be Ambrians, but we aren't necessarily agents of the Queen. I'm certainly not getting paid by.
And also Ascarai's here.
Yeah,
It's not brain, basically.
Not all Ambrian.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, you are, as a group, stood waiting outside the High Chieftain's Hall for actually not very long, only about perhaps 10 minutes as you watch kind of the pilgrim camp. It's starting to empty out now, but it's still, there are still quite, you'd say it's only maybe a third of the people have managed to leave it. You know, striking a camp is not a short process. The Wrathguard seem to be helping people leave, but not hurrying them, if that makes sense. They have the patience for the task that has to be done. Farvan steps out of the gateway, as I say, about 10 minutes later, nods and says, "The High Chieftain will see you."
Thank you.
You may carry your weapons, but you're bound not to use them against him.
Of course.
Understood.
The first guard nods and kind of turns around. The Wrathguard, like a group of Wrathguard, kind of as you go up the steps, the two Wrathguard who are waiting on the steps fall into line behind you. And as you walk through the doors, about 12 more Wrathguard who were stood silently just inside the entranceway kind of form a half circle behind you and just walk, matching your pace directly behind you as you make your way through the halls. They are large, they are grand, they are impressive, but it's not exactly, or at least your progress through it isn't exactly a warren. In fact, you move straight as an arrow from the entrance until you reach, before very long at all, what seems to be the High Hall of the High Chieftain. At the very back of it, it has what appears to be a large stone wall that looks to be of relatively recent build. It looks like a tower wall, honestly, and as you get closer to the throne, you can see that is indeed what it is. There is a tower within the hall itself, what looks to be like a very small courtyard area, and it rears up, and at the front of it is the High Chieftain's throne. But I don't have to go into an elaborate description because I can show you. This is what the High Chieftain's Hall looks like. Tharaban is there on his wooden throne. As you can see, there are large sort of gold-painted wooden columns that arc overhead, and a number of various individuals from what look like various clans standing around, watching your progress along the wooden floors, which are covered with, as you can see, there's a kind of plush red carpets leading to the foot of the High Chieftain's dais.
Are there any people, of the people wandering around, are there any people who look like they're witches?
Zero.
Okay.
They all look like, I was trying to find what's the word for someone not part of the clergy?
Lay person.
Secular. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, they all look for what passes within barbarian culture and witches. They are all secular individuals. They look like, nobles or at least high-ranking members of the clansfolk.
Okay. I think Askar will take off his mask as he going to see the High Chieftain.
Yeah.
Just for the record, in case it comes up, I would never ever consider wearing the Iron Pact ring on Carvasti, because that seems like a bad.
Sure. Yeah. So as you get closer to the throne, you can see the figure of Tharaban kind of standing up and almost kind of like shuffling to the front of the throne. He is definitely a man who you can see he's one of the older men you've ever seen, certainly as part of the barbarian clans, but he still very obviously was a man of considerable size and power in his youth, and you imagine could probably still throw more than a few other warriors to the ground. He does, however, seem to be, he's kind of shuffling forward. He is slightly hunched, and he notably has a racking cough that already has rattled through the high hall a number of times on your way up to the throne. He clearly has a kind of bandaged side, presumably all of this is still the fallout from the assassin's attempt on his life, where I think you did hear on that night that an assassin had reached him, but was kind of hadn't managed to kill him, but instead wound him before he was cut down. The assassin you caught, I think, was the idea. And if we want a closer view of Tharaban, he of course has a portrait, and this is it. Tharaban takes further steps forward to the edge of his dais. I legitimately don't know how my mouse cursor ended up in that. Oh, it's just permanent. That's nice. Let me stop the screen. Sort this out, StreamYard, please.
Technology.
Yeah. How about that? That's better. There we go.
That's good. I'm getting Oliver Reed vibes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. There we go. Tharaban, played by Oliver Reed. There we go. Sure. And it's actually funny because I don't tend to do it that much on this thing, but just so people know, I constantly have people cast as NPCs in my head. So people are interested in who those people are, I'm happy to say. As I say, he steps to the edge of the dais and down a couple of steps from it, and says in much better Ambrian than his first guard, "So these are the warriors who protected an old man on the night of his betrayal. Step forward, each of you, that I might know your names." Who's going first?
I step forward and lower into a bow with my hands. It looks slightly fancy, but it's mostly keeping my hands away from my weapons. And say, "Hi, Chieftain. Thank you for this audience. I am Aaron Dar of House Dar. This is my companion, Ferren. He cannot speak for himself for obvious reasons."
Not usual to see one of the southern folk who has managed to tame a beast of the forest. You are to be commended. I believe your second name indicates that you are of noble blood.
Correct. Although my house is no longer recognized since the war.
Unfortunate. My people know the pain of being displaced. Sir Aaron, I believe this is a gesture the Ambrians use between friends. He steps forward and offers his arm to you in the manner of an Ambrian handshake.
I will take it with a polite nod.
All right. He, unless anyone else is going to step forward, I will randomize who is stood next to Arindar. So it's up to you what you want to do about that. Well, no one's saying it, so I will randomize it. Randomize. Okay, it is Sergeant Steo.
Steo will kind of no, not a fancy bow, but kind of propped on the spear, just kind of a pretty deep bow, and say, "Hi, Chieftain. I'm Steo of Thistlehold. The spear for these lads and ladies."
He proffers you his arm as well and says, "I have shared more than a few pleasant evenings with your Mayor Nightpitch. He is a decent man."
Nightpitch is a good man. I'll take his hand warmly.
"That is an impressive spear, Master Steo, and it is clear from your standing that you know how to use it."
Thank you. I try and only use it to keep the peace.
He reaches out and sort of taps. I'm assuming you're wearing your armor, and he sort of reaches out and taps on your armor and says, This make is impressive. I'm trying to persuade one of your armor smiths to teach some ways of working this hard metal, but I think your dukes are reluctant to lend their master smiths.
It is a work of many years' practice. I wish I knew it myself. I could effect repairs better.
Randomize? I assume we were wanting to randomize?
Sure.
Randomize. Okay, the next in line is Father Anton. I won't role play out the full interaction because it's kind of embarrassing to do that between yourselves, but the greeting is obviously very cordial. The High Chieftain expresses that many of the preachers of the Sun Church who've come to the plateau have treated the inhabitants with quite a lot of respect, and that he has in turn respect for the sacrosanct nature of the worship of Prios on the plateau and elsewhere. Then he comes to Ilindru. Might as well just done it straight down.
That's a kind of random too.
Yeah.
Greetings, High Chieftain. My name is Ilindra.
Are you no longer a member of the Sun Knight Order? He kind of indicates your ripped and damaged tabard.
That's correct. I am no longer a Templar or a Templar novice. But I still carry faith of a sort.
In my experience, we do not need the trappings of an order to follow their principles. I was never a member of the Wrath Guard, but I still like to think I fight with their fury. Do you approve of this recent parting of the ways in your church?
I do not understand it, and I cannot approve of it.
Time will tell such things. You have, I believe, you Southerners call a squire?
Yes, this is Revelia. She is training under me.
You learn from a mighty warrior, Revelia. Pay attention and take your lessons well. Revelia who's quite, this is, it's certainly not for an Ambrian the same thing as meeting the Queen or anything, but there are the two most powerful secular individuals in the world that you know, and the only world that Revelia has ever known are Queen Corinthia and the High Chieftain.
Yeah.
So she sort of sketches a deep bow, and then the High Chieftain steps to Askarai.
It's an honor to meet you, High Chieftain. I'm Askarai, at one time of Clan Godinja. So
I thought I detected a fragment of that accent remaining. You must know that I have a considerable link with Clan Godinja, our northern neighbours. You are certainly aware, as someone who grew up among the clans, that Tharaban's original clan was Yadisa, who have territory just to the south of Godinja. They're also known for, they produce a lot of High Chieftains, whether that be through luck or coincidence or just the fact the clan makes for quite skilled politicians. You don't know, but it is certainly not unusual to have a Yeed leading the clansfolk.
okay. My My tribesmen, my fellow tribesmen, always spoke very highly of your clan and of you yourself. There are many people I knew growing up who would not believe that I was here today meeting you, but it's truly an honor. I'm very pleased to see you recovering from the horrible events from before.
I thank you. And it is a balm to know that some of our northern brothers and sisters do not hold grudges against this old man.
Far from it. It's a source of stability to know that you're here and the head of the tribes.
He nods. He's proffered an Ambrian handshake to all of you, and I'm assuming all of you have taken him up on the offer. Yeah. He glances over behind you where Degesto and Malamai are kind of lurking more than anything, and just gestures and says, "And your companions are welcome as well." He quite heavily takes a couple of steps back up to the top of the dais and turns around and says, "So what would you wish from this old man who is at your service?"
We hope that this does not come across as disrespectful, High Chieftain, but if you would oblige us, we would be interested to know about, well, I suppose your thoughts on current occurrences, and I suppose we were quite worried about the clearing of the pilgrim camp. I understand it was obviously not a decision you made lightly, but many of the people there were injured or sick, and well, I suppose we just were wondering if you would share your reasoning with us.
I certainly owe you that much. He walks back to his throne and kind of collapses back on it, clearly in some relief at being able to sit down. I imagine that men and women as capable as you must keep their ears and eyes open. If you wish to know why I feel that people of the South must be removed from the plateau, I suggest that you perhaps take that question to your queen.
We have heard of movements in the South, but none of the reasoning. You believe that the Queen marches on Kavosti, then?
I believe it is one of the only courses of action that makes sense to me. From your own seeming travels, it cannot be unknown to you that more attention is being paid than normal to the whereabouts of a lost city.
We are aware, yes.
I believe that Corinthia believes that you believe, that many men and women out there believe the secret to this can be found beneath our feet. I may be an old man, but I have eyes and ears as well, and not just my own. No good can come of searching for Symbar. I cannot even tell you for certain whether these rumors are true, and there is no way for me to currently inquire with those who do. All I would say to you is, I cannot impose upon you to stop your course of action or that of your queen. But I would suggest that either leaving and seeking other treasures would serve you best, or failing that, there are better and worse hands this information could be in.
High Chieftain, we intend to leave the plateau shortly. We were hoping, if we may be so bold, and if the tactical situation allows it, will we still have your welcome to return?
That depends on the situation you find the plateau in on your return. But it also depends on the relationship you have with the treasures you seek and with your liege. If I have heard that you are one of the groups seeking the tunnels under Karvosti, do not think that your queen will not also know this. Your actions echo out under the trees, out onto the plains. They will not have gone unnoticed. And you are not the only ones she will seek out either.
Is there anything we can do to try to help maintain some kind of peace?
I do not think Corinthia is a woman who strays from the path once she has set her mind to it. You must do what you find best. But as I say, should you find yourself in possession of this information, there are hands it is safer in than others. Do we understand each other?
I think so.
Then the doors of this hall will be open to you.
Thank you.
One last... The clearance of the plateau, will it be extended to the Templars on the top? Or have they blessing to remain? Or are there complexities I cannot see?
The Sun Temple is sacred. We would not offend your sun god nor your church in this matter. And their presence, now more than ever, seems unlikely to weigh the balance of what is to come. I do not believe your Templars now pay any more faith to your queen than they do your church.
I'm sure you've heard this already, but the Sun Temple is gone. There's nobody there. But also there's Gowan's far southeast, from some under some purpose we don't understand. But that is what we've encountered.
Yes. We know of this. What do you know?
They appear to have removed their previous clan iconography and tattooed themselves with a crown and thorns.
That is the symbol of the sovereign's crown. And that is how they are known. They have raised a banner. The banner of the Blood Daughter. You would do well to stay away. They do not care who they cut down.
Do you know of their goals, their motivations?
I more than anyone know of their target.
It was them that came for you.
This has been a good conversation. Go now with my blessing. And be cautious on the shores of Lake Volgoma. And even more in the waters.
Thank you.
I bid good health to you, High Chieftain. I'll bow again.
He seems to be kind of lacking the energy to climb out of his throne, but he nods to you, and First Guard Farvan kind of like turns around to him and kind of make it clear that you're leaving the hall now.
Let's do that.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Sure. You were escorted out of the High Chieftain's Hall. You can see that the pilgrim camp, it's not clear yet entirely, but it's kind of getting there now at this point. And there is a long trail of Ambrians leading kind of past the longhouse to the gate of the plateau.
I don't know about you guys, but after that conversation, I think I'd rather go through the forest than the road.
I was in favor of the forest from the beginning, but I knew I was outvoted, so I kept my mouth shut. If we, the forest seems safer than the road to me.
Oh my
faster.
God, what world do we live in where that is a thing we can...
There is a kind of safety in numbers on the road. It is going to be thronging with Ambrians leaving Carvosti. However, do we want to be surrounded by Ambrians who have been evacuated from Carvosti at this time? Do we want to be seen and heard by them?
I think, frankly, too many Ambrians know who we are. Malamai, who we've from a town not even that close to Thistlehold, knows who we are. People are aware of us, and will, if they see us, they'll know, and will, relay where we are and what we're doing to people.
So
feels like
Malamai kind of nods but says, although if it beg your pardon, sirs, I would not have known you to see you. It was only through Captain de Gesto that I knew who you were.
Let's...
Malamai, you're a nice lad, but let's assume that the agents of the Queen are going to be a wee bit more well prepared. I still think we break road at this.
I would go on further, Theo. Before we leave these halls, let's see what we can find in our packs or can beg or borrow here by way of disguise to slip off Carvosti and into the forest. Let's have the last that any Ambrian saw of us walking into this place and have some anonymous Ambrians leave here until we get to the forest.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think that'll do.
So I'm going to be fishing around for like hoods or, probably taking off the armor, like whatever is required to kind of change silhouettes as much as possible.
Yeah. As you're doing this, and is everyone kind of following this, sort of like taking out your heavy traveling cloaks and kind of like bundling around you a bit more? Yeah, absolutely. While you're doing this, De Gesto kind of turns to Malmai and Revelia, and says, "You two, stop slacking over there. There's some. You see those with the white flowers? Those herbs are good. Go pick some of them and bring them back to us. They'll be good for the road. Good for poultices." They both. Malmai just kind of nods and heads over. Revelia kind of glances at you, Elindra, with a sort of questioning look in her eyes.
I will. I'm not quite sure where Degesto's going with this, but yes, I will. I will nod for Revelia to go and be elsewhere for a bit.
Just so we're clear, fellows, we know that discussion with the High Chieftain was tantamount to treason, aye?
Plenty of trees in the forest.
It certainly would be, according to the Queen and her agents.
This is the place in which we find ourselves.
Fuck the Queen. I've got no problem with it. I sent those two off as to not alarm them, and also not to have them included in this discussion, which is also tantamount to treason.
I think killing rangers is also pretty treasonous.
I did say fuck the Queen.
I think it became clear at Fria Ligan, Degesto, that we don't share your disdain for the Queen and the Rangers. However, I think it's clear that circumstances have put us in a place where it would be quite a leap from here to being on their side.
I think you have to be realistic that in not being on the Queen's side, you are on the side of her enemies. According to her, it seemed to me, as someone not directly involved in the conversation, that what the High Chieftain was proposing is that you bring the location of Symbar back to him.
That was abundantly clear, yes.
I mean, that seems a little more than not sympathizing with the Queen. That's all I'm saying. I just want you to all know what you're getting yourself into.
I think
we didn't sign any contract with him. We're fine for now.
Did just say that we understood what he was saying, correct?
Yeah. We haven't decided on a course of action yet, although I suspect that every course of action from here on in is going to make us some very powerful enemies, if they are not our enemies already.
I think
we are in this thing now.
To me, at least, I agree. We've been involved with forces far beyond our power or control, but at least now I feel like there's an actual way forward for us that makes some sense in that if we bring this location to Tharaban, we're doing as much as we can to prevent it falling into the hands of the Queen, and he may be able to stop further people coming, and that is our goal. But equally, if we have the location, perhaps we can make some profit from it. It seems like this maybe is the solution to both our aims of profit and prevention.
I don't know, when you're in a room with a politician and he gives you an offer that's too good to be true, you want to take a good couple of days and have a long think about how that offer could in fact be false.
Let's be honest with ourselves, though, Steo. If we run into Rangers or other agents of the Queen from here on in, I would expect that even if we were to volunteer to give up the information that we had, we've probably already done enough that they're going to attempt to torture that out of us. It will not be a pleasant meeting.
Okay.
And I think our best thing to do here is to avoid them.
We'll go through the forest then if you think it's best. I'm not happy about finding a way across the river, though.
No, that's a concern.
We'll cross that when we come to it. Eh?
Yeah. Oh.
He looks very proud of himself.
Aaron is looking very uneasy, but not because of the joke.
Mm-hmm. So the two younger individuals return with handfuls of what is at best a mildly useful herb. And yeah, everyone can easily find their kind of like thick travel cloaks and remove the more distinct parts of their gear. Weirdly, oddly enough, Sam, it might be better for Ascari to just take off his mask.
Yeah.
He's just a changeling.
Ascari's going to attempt to do his changeling thing.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
Some nondescript
I think this is attempt 4 and success 0 so far.
Yeah, it's like it's easier if you're not like trying to look like a specific person, right? If it's just a generic looking different. Okay, walk us through that mechanics. We haven't had it in a while.
Okay, I think it's basically that Ascari rolls a dice. Let me read this thing. Shapeshifter.
It's coming, isn't it?
With a successful roll against Resolute, the character may adopt a false shape, the form, appearance, voice, and clothes of another creature, not a specific individual. Lasts one scene, so maybe enough to get out the gate and bit of the way down the hill.
Go ahead then, friend.
Okay,
it's our first die roll tonight.
I'll do my best. That is a 9, which makes it. So Ascari changes shape into a nondescript Ambrian traveler kind of plateau person.
Sure, absolutely. Will all of you bundle yourselves up? DeGesto does the same, but there's only a certain amount of hiding that beard he can do. And are we just kind of generally joining the train of Ambrians from the pilgrim camp?
I guess we're sort of coming from a slightly different place to the camp, though, right? Like, I guess we'll converge on them.
Yeah, you can. I just didn't know what you thought. You seem to be trying to avoid attention and walking straight from the Chieftain's Hall.
There's no way. It's a wide open plateau.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult. But either way, I don't think it particularly matters. It's not like I'm adjusting roles for being spotted or whatever.
I guess either way, once we get to the gate, we will have joined the line. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, you're part of this trail of people. Once you reach near the longhouse, you can see that some individuals, mostly traders, are also being evicted from the shacks and market stalls by the longhouse. Crueljaw stands outside his trade hut, open-mouthed in confusion, but seemingly not being moved on. There is still some wailing and distress apparent, but most of the relatively well-equipped and capable Ambrians seem to be taking the shock stoically, or at the very least, not wanting to cause trouble with the fearsome Wrathguard. Among the spread out crowds, you do spot Bartho and Irella, the former's face like thunder as he trudges towards the gates. Are we just kind of joining in with the general mass being herded by the Wrathguard out of the gates and down the path along the north of the plateau?
Did we want to try and find Bartho for something?
Wasn't there a loose plan to torture the secret coda?
Or at least intimidate. I think it was more intimidate out of him.
Intimidate.
But,
yeah. I will say this very quietly to the others. I'm thinking now, maybe it's too late, but maybe the best thing for Bartho is just a knife. Just who knows what he's going to say and to who to further inflame this, or is this damage done?
Yeah, I think that horse is bolted, Alindra.
Okay.
I think there's a very little more damage you can do than starting a war between the Northerners and the Ambrians.
Frankly, I think you're right, Alindra, but I'm not willing to kill Bartho in cold blood. If anyone here is, then...
If I had known back in the tavern what I know now, perhaps I would have done it then. But I don't think I have it in me.
And if Alindra doesn't have it in her to murder a man in cold blood, then certainly no other members of the party do.
She's not that psychotic. Like there is some kind of moral compass in there somewhere.
There's a scale of psychosis there, though, for sure. You are herded out of the gates along with everyone else, and you trudge your way down the path along the flank of the plateau to the bottom. At the base of the plateau, the rambling camp of unfortunates and petitioners is looking on with surprise at the slow trail of Ambrians making their way down. A few of them jeer and throw mud, clearly gladdened by others being brought down to their state of temporary exile. Most Ambrians with some form of transport or well equipped enough to relatively easily travel are already taking the road south towards Archbridge, the Viara outpost or Ambrian lands. Most others are standing, sitting, or slumped around in confusion and distress. A few are weeping or breaking down openly, clearly out of options and stranded in the dubious safety of the shadow of the plateau. All around stretches the darkness of Davakar, the canopy rustling softly as the dawn sun creeps slowly towards the tree line. And you know what? I think we will wrap it there for the week, because I think that's a more dramatic ending than walking a little bit of the way into the forest. So there we go. It's quite an early finish for us, but we've got to get our breath back. We're just returning to Symbaroum, folks. Bear with us. Pop anything in chat that you want us to bring up and reply to or discuss. And in the meantime, I'll do the promo business. Check down below for a bunch of links. There's links to Twitch and to YouTube. You're watching on one. Please do check out the other. YouTube is where you can catch us. Catch all our archived streams. Twitch is where you can catch us live. There's also links to Discord, Patreon, social media, if they're the kind of things that float your boat. Check them out. We currently run 3 campaigns on a weekly basis. Mondays is Vason with Johnny and the Monday crew. Wednesdays is Symbaroum with me and this crew, which seems like weird, irrelevant information to drop at this point. And Thursdays is currently the ending of the Cincinnati Chronicles. We've only got 2 episodes left on our World of Darkness anthology series. As I've said multiple times, it will almost certainly make no sense to you now if you jump into it with tomorrow's stream fresh. But, go watch it all. And then by the time you've done that, the next 2 episodes will probably be on YouTube, and you can enjoy it all and tell me what a fucking genius I am for somehow corralling that campaign into my head. I'm not a genius. I'm just clever in a very specific, limited, and non-profitable way. So we also run one-shots on a monthly basis, 1 or 2 of them a month. In August, we've got 2 still coming up. We've got Hell Knight on the 26th, which I'm running, which is a Doom Biker Indie TTRPG. And on the 20th, the Sunday before that, we've got Johnny running the 3rd installment of his Grand Space Thulu experiment. Call of Cthulhu in Space. There's a couple of previous arcs / one-shots of that on in our archives. If you do a search for Call of Cthulhu, they'll probably come up. But yeah, I don't think... because I know some people on this have been to that. Like the first 2 weren't necessarily sequel, right? That they're not leading on straight from one to the other, right? They're like kind of more thematically linked. Is that right, John? Because you were in one or both of them, right?
I was in one and I watched the other one.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's more kind of the same universe and maybe some similar characters or maybe some sort of through narrative. But
so I was guessing they aren't sequels because each time he's like, right, who wants to be in this one? So it's not like a direct thing. So I'm sure you can enjoy it on its own if you haven't watched the others. Although if you go to YouTube, you can watch the others anyway. Watch it all several times, thousands of times, over and over and over again till your eyes and ears bleed. So have we got any new followers to thank? I think Zed Gravitas was probably already thanked by Johnny, but if not, thank you, Zed Gravitas, for the follow. And John, do you want to slap some stuff up on screen?
Well, there were some fantastic things before I joined, but unfortunately my StreamYard doesn't show them. But I did like this one.
Do you think the king recognizes the spear from Don't Kick Food? He probably knows the incredibly intricate backstory. But he'll never tell.
He will never.
If only we'd asked him. So much history and information.
Maybe that's why we need to ally ourselves with him so that he'll tell us.
Please do. You'll be
finally.
You'll be so disappointed because he will sit down and he will go, yes, I will tell you the story. And then he'll tell you what you already know because that's the story.
Finally, Steele has some stakes in this narrative. He finally gets to know what the story is.
Sure. Yeah.
I've just... All I'm like, I cannot wait for the day that Elindra eventually gets to find out what the backstory is for her sword, just for the look on Chris's face.
It will be sour,
gonna,
I guarantee.
It's gonna have like 50 pages of exposition.
We're gonna do like a whole like 5-episode mini sort of side quest.
I feel like
The
this whole
spin-off series.
All these weeks break has just been Matt writing the backstory for the swords to annoy Chris.
Symbaroum, Secrets of the Blade.
I can't wait for the 1 year detour as we find out the backstory of that one arrow that Askarai's got.
Yeah. Let me tell you, there's a
34.
tale to be told about Farron's claws. Sam meeting the king, and here is my cat.
Adore.
Yeah.
And then the immediate follow up.
Yeah, from Dungeoneering VTT, like any cat owner would do, of course. Yeah, it's true.
He wanted to know our names.
It may have come to attention to viewers that I have a cat. I'm
What?
not 100% sure, but it may have come to attention. Like the fact that I had a cat face in the lower sort of left-hand quadrant of my cam for about 10 minutes, just staring at me.
And the fact that the cam is specifically arranged
the
so
cat
that the
bed.
cat would be visible on stream.
Yeah.
We know where the money comes.
I'm not taking any chances. Steve, there was a certain amount of meowing. Often I think you folks hear it more than I do because I am slightly muffled. But even I definitely heard the meowing. Yeah. I mean, careful viewers on Monday night might discover that one of the players there has cats as well. I'm not going to say who and ruin the mystery.
Spoilers.
There we go.
Definitely.
Some of us here who haven't watched Monday night are like, I don't get it.
Definitely, no one has cats like just literally walking across the keyboard. That would be horribly unprofessional of us.
I'm sorry.
This is the
Monday,
internet.
Wednesday.
It's the most professional thing you can do.
Yeah, if you have a cat and a
Monday,
webcam,
Wednesday.
like.
And let me tell you, kids nowadays, like cats are pretty big on the internet now. You have no idea how big cats used to be on the internet.
Oh yeah, like 15 years ago.
Let me tell you,
wall-to-wall cats.
Cats as far as the eye could see. Cats as far as the finger could click.
Yeah.
Back in my day, all this was cats.
All this was cats. All this was cats and bunnies with pancakes on their heads.
I'm pretty sure one of the biggest videos in like early YouTube was just a song called "The Internet is Made of Cats." Because it was
The ancient.
Well, yeah, in the olden times.
Secrets of the ancients.
The post stream scroll has more backstory than my.
Steve, hope you're luckier than the last lot.
This was in response to meeting Malamai.
Yeah.
I did think everyone had to actively avoid bringing up like, right, you're the replacement for like this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy.
You're the replacement for those ones who got smashed into the wall by trolls.
It's never
holes.
It's never a good sign when you essentially turn up to a job interview and it just goes, yeah, great. When can you start? Like that is bad juju.
Yeah, but like I say with Malamai, I have people like always have people cast in my head for NPCs, or a lot of the time I do. More often the NPCs I've made up, because if they've got like a portrait, then it's like, although he does look like Oliver Reed, so that casting works. But if anyone ever wants to know what these NPCs who I've cast them as in my head, they're more than welcome to ask. I'll give you one for free. Beremo is fucking no one because he doesn't matter.
I was weighing up whether or not
you were the
I was brave enough
first
to.
Oh, I know, but people were going to ask who Beremo was, so I thought I'd get in there ahead of the request. So there we go.
Beremo is all of us.
Yeah.
That's why he can't be any one person. Beremo, the spirit of Beremo lives in everybody.
Although it has just occurred to me that if anyone asks who Malamai is, then I have to look at the name of the actor because I don't know the name of the actor. But yeah, that he's the sorcerer kid in the Dungeons and Dragons movie in my head, but a lot more serious.
Oh yeah,
That's his
yeah. I
last
can't
I,
remember. His
I thought you were gonna
Yeah.
you were gonna stop just short of that so that everyone could tune in next week when you looked at the
Oh
name.
no! I have no sense of
Okay.
sense of.
Don't bother tuning in next week
Yeah,
then.
because I'm not. I'm notoriously bad at cliffhangers, eh?
This is gonna be more adventure stuff, you know.
Yeah, just more adventuring, more of that shit. All right then. Justice Smith is the name of the actor. There we go. So there we go, folks. Thanks for watching. Thanks for paying attention to both the viewers and my lovely crew. We will be back next week. As I say, Son's mic for a while, but we'll keep going nevertheless in his absence. Join us next week for more Symbaroum. Until take care, stay safe. Goodbye. Bye.